everybody? Welcome in. Fresh takes. Russo and Felice. We are back. Newish time too. Gonna be fun. Paul Russo, across from me, as always, man, myth, legend himself, Nick Felice. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Paul. We finally made the primetime slot of 10 a.m.
Right.
People have turned off First Take on ESPN to turn on Fresh Takes on their handheld devices or wherever you watch your podcast or listen to your podcast, but I gotta say, Paul, a lot has changed in this
Yeah.
studio, and you've been a great judge, helping me find the differences. And I think I found four. We got new cameras, new computer, new TV, new computer, and the TV that was over here. Can we confirm? Is it that TV right there?
It is now the monitoring TV. Yes.
I'm telling you, there's a fifth thing that has changed, and I'm going to find it by the end of the show.
Okay. Interesting, but okay. Yeah, so we got new setups going on, trying some new stuff and all that fun stuff. So we are minus a couple of our usual graphics where, we have side-by-sides and stuff like that for the time being, but nonetheless, so yeah, Nick, obviously we're deepish in the baseball now, early season kind of through, NBA playoffs going, and NHL playoffs about to begin next week. Am I forgetting anything else? It's been
April's a
busy couple weeks here.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I'm not a huge fan in it, but a lot of people love the NFL draft, which is this Thursday. So that's another big thing. April is a big month for sports. You had the Masters, you had college basketball finishing up. So it's a big month. I always look at April and October. Those are your type of big months. October is where you see that sports with the sports equinox. That's the month where you can get that, where all the professional sports are playing on the same day. April, you can't get that because of the NFL, but you do have the NFL draft occasionally. So, it's a big month for sports, and it's coming to a close. But we're here to talk about it, right?
Yeah, I don't think sports equinox can happen, though, in April.
October.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying October and April are the two big sports months, but the only chance you get a sports equinox is in October. April's just big because of the NFL draft, Masters, college basketball, whatnot.
Gotcha. Okay. You had me confused there for a second. All right, let's jump right in. All right, the NBA playoffs, like you mentioned, full swing. A lot of different storylines. I feel like we should just jump right out in front and get the main one out of the way with, Nick.
Is there a game? Is it a best of 9?
Kyrie. Sweet Kyrie. We're all trying to figure out who's to blame here. You guys just don't have time to gel. I get it. I get it. I wonder who could be at fault for that. Who could it be, Nick? Do you have any idea? Do you know? Do you have any idea?
Well, if they pulled the Lakers route, it would be Steve Nash.
Oh, Steve Nash is the one who didn't play half the games. Either way.
Well, he did not play half.
Either way, the Nets were swept. It was glorious in nature last night. Excuse me. It was weird when you actually watch, I guess, the series and kind of break it down a little bit. To me, personally speaking, it's the NBA is tough to sweep any series in my mind. Strictly because basketball is kind of the one where, I think the talent is a closer gulf than the other sports in a sense. The perfect example, I guess, in this series, right, would be Kevin Durant to say Jason Tatum. Kevin Durant's the best player out of the two, right? But he didn't play like the best player of that series. And look, it ended up being the Celtics sweep, right? And to me, that's tough to do. I did figure the Nets would at least get one win somewhere in there.
People were saying this was going 7.
It's like, with the Heat, when people ask me, do you think the Heat will sweep? No, the Hawks will get at least one. The NBA, to me, like I said, it's just tough to get a sweep because the talent overall is just a closer grouping together. Look what's going on, and we'll touch on this, obviously, with the Suns and the Pelicans right now. it's to me, it's crazy that the Pels are keeping it that close. I even without Booker, I thought the Suns would be a bit better than they are. That being said, you have a team that's led by, in my mind, perhaps the most, if not one of the most underrated players in the league in Brandon Ingram. A dude who's not afraid to run and hide from anything for the most part. Look, jokes aside, this Nets team at the end of the day, they did disappoint. They have a lot to look at in the mirror into the offseason, to put it probably kindly. I don't fully know, honestly, what their next step should be. I feel like there's a lot of blame to be put on a lot of people, and justifiably. I don't think you can lump it all on Steve Nash. I think Nash is probably going to be scapegoated here, when in actuality, does he probably have some blame? Yeah, but he's a rookie head coach. A lot of times those dudes have to figure it out for themselves. Obviously, Kyrie's got, in my mind, take the bulk of it. The press conference last night he had was just his Shakespearean comedy. It was
I didn't
just
see that, but I saw him walking in. He did not look like he wanted to be.
They're going to have to figure out this Ben Simmons thing. I feel like the only true piece in my mind that's going to be on the Nets going into next year is Kevin Durant. The Nets are in an interesting spot. They were touted this year to be the next New York team. I know that probably pains you to hear me say that, Nick, but they were touted to be NYC's team this year and moving forward. And if there's one thing I know, it's they don't like how that season would have played out if it were the Knicks.
Bing bong.
Yeah, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Yeah, they have a lot of stuff to look at in the mirror. This is a team, like I said, they underwhelmed, they underachieved. Again, it's weird. We saw this shift in the NBA to the super team aspect, and I guess really to a degree, you still have the super team elements kind of going on, right? Golden State, the Lakers where it failed, the Nets where it failed, but. Everybody else, the ones who are really good right now are these very good, cohesive units that play together. The Bucks, right? The Celtics, the Heat. To me, the Mavericks are a pretty well-oiled machine at this point. Teams like that where, you kind of have one, your main superstar, or maybe two that are on a pretty similar plane, and that's about it. And then you have a really good, cohesive group around them. I don't know how the Nets really achieve that. They're kind of stuck in cap purgatory. It's going to be tough for them, I think, moving forward next year.
That's what you said, though. Great point. It's because of the group around them. Personally, obviously, this is how you see it. And you can't just put a couple stars together and expect you're going to be a super team. You have to put pieces around them. And we saw that with the Lakers and the Nets this year. Mm-hmm. They didn't do that. They didn't do what the Heat did when LeBron was there. They didn't do what the Warriors did before, when KD got there and then that before. They had tons of players around them. Andre Iguodala, a great role player. Mm-hmm. Shane Battier was a great shooter coming off the bench. Or did he start?
Battier did get some. Battier got starts in the playoffs.
But he was very good for that Heat team.
Yeah.
And the Nets, the Lakers was just flat out terrible all around.
Yeah.
Because one of their superstars wasn't even very good in Russell Westbrook.
Right.
And they couldn't stay healthy, and they're getting old. So that was just a whole mess. That's the reason why they didn't even make the play-in the Western Conference. The Nets, the bench is terrible. Absolutely terrible. And Bruce Brown and Steph Curry they're good players. They should be coming off the bench. They should not be in your starting lineup. And
I can understand a guy like Seth being in the starting lineup.
Yeah, you're just not going to win a championship with that, in my opinion. You're not going to win a championship. And a bunch of people could jump on me like, well, they'd be great players for the Knicks. Knicks. I'm not saying the Knicks are a championship team. You perceived yourself as a championship team. In my opinion, you're not going to win with Bruce Brown in your starting lineup. It's just not going to happen. And it turned into a sweep. You got swept in the first round. That's not how I thought they do a little bit better than that, but that's exactly what you signed up for.
Right.
And then, of course, the whole Kyrie thing off the court. And it's just, we got to come to we got to look at these guys differently. Are they the superstars that we think and everyone else thinks they are? Because personally, Kyrie, is he a top 5 point guard in this league? Point guard wise, no. He doesn't pass the ball. He doesn't assist. He's a great scorer. That's what he is. Is he a top 5 scorer in this league? Kevin Durant.
I don't even know if he's a scorer. I'll let you continue, but I'd say Kyrie, if anything, is more of a playmaker in that regard.
Because how many superstar tags are we giving out?
Right.
I think superstar is top 5. I don't even know if you bring it to 10.
Well, superstar to me too has this, I guess, commercial element to it, right? Where like you're not gonna like the example here, right? But LeBron James, I mean, he's out obviously Space Jam, for example, right? But he's also in commercials for whether it's Sprite or Kia, right? Stuff like that. Obviously, we know Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson all had deals like, say, McDonald's, or still do from the case of Michael Jordan. Stuff like that, right? I mean, there's the commercial element to the superstardom as well. When was the last time you saw Kyrie Irving in a commercial? Or anything, right? So, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just, is Kyrie Irving a top 5 scorer? And if he is not, I don't think he's a superstar.
I think in today's NBA, it scores a different term almost in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, because there's some great players that can score, like Embiid and Jokic. Are they going to put them in their top 5 because they're big men? There's that question as well. And then Kevin Durant, he's just, I don't know if he's the same player after his couple of injuries there, and I don't know.
It's weird because so that's the next point I wanted to talk about with the Nets. Did to me anyway, Kevin Durant seemed, I don't think timid's the right word. It's not like I don't think he was scared. I don't think he was. But he certainly seemed more tepid this series for whatever reason. I don't know if he's just tired. I mean, you bring up the injury thing, right? I mean, he's one of the guys that are in that run really about 4 or 5 years ago who had these what we all thought at one point would be these borderline career-ending injuries, but comes back and whether it was in his case like ruptured Achilles or you got other cases like Clay where it's Achilles with ACL, stuff like that. But up until really, I'd say the tail end of this year and into this series, he never, to me, showed signs of that sort of fatigue. And like I said, I don't think it's timid. I don't know if it's necessarily even the trepidation of it. Maybe it's just the mileage catching up to him to a degree. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think we finally saw that to a degree with LeBron this year. I mean, I know the stats in that sense don't necessarily back it up. I mean, he became a volume shooter scorer this year, but to that end, I mean, he was also out more games than he ever has been as well. He did not have the same explosiveness as we've seen with LeBron all year. I know we're talking about playoffs, but I'm trying to make some sort of, I guess, connection in that sense. Is more or less, is the mileage starting to catch up with some of these guys? I think I'm going to lean more into that being the case rather than Kevin Durant being scared. Yeah. I think. I can't see KD not wanting to prove people wrong this series in essence. Just the way he is. I mean, we know his MO, but I mean, obviously, if we got all these people out here saying that Tatum's better than you, he's gonna play pissed off. He's one of those people that will. I don't know.
I want to ask.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you on the other side. What about the Celtics?
Yeah.
Does this series sweep have them jump over the Bucks in your Heat?
I put them above the Bucks kind of all year a little bit. The Bucks are in an interesting position now anyway without Middleton, although they actually seem to be spacing a little bit better without him on the court. It's kind of weird. That being said, I'm personally as a Heat fan, I'm more scared of the Celtics than I am the Bucks anyway, just because the Celtics to me provide more of a nightmarish kind of matchup scenario defensively. Like I mean, the thing with like Giannis is you more or less just have to let him do his own thing, borderline. Whether it's Jordan-esque rules or whatever. I just think it's easier to guard the Bucks. You can space them out offensively for your own sets a little bit better than the Celtics. The Celtics, obviously, Tatum and Brown and Smart, kind of that front three type defensively scenario that you're going to have to face off against. And obviously, Tatum can guard pretty much four positions at this point. Brown's the same, but closer to three just because he's a tick shorter. Obviously, Smart, great defender. He'll, in all honesty, Smart, if the Celtics do match up against the Heat in the ECF, odds are Smart will be the one guarding Jimmy Butler.
Everyone needs a Marcus Smart on the team.
So, and then obviously with the Celtics, you have Tyson and Horford, who to me get a lot of flack for no reason. Personally, I think Horford's a Hall of Famer. I think people kind of misconstrued his career, unfortunately. And Tice is pretty good. He's decent. I think he's not great by any means, but he's not as bad as a lot of people make him out to be.
Yeah, he's very underrated.
And then obviously those won't be your starting five, but your predominant people coming off the bench, whether it's Williams, and the way it sounds, Reggie Williams sounds like he's coming back at some point here. I don't know where exactly. But once he comes back, you obviously have, Derek White's pretty good. Again, a guy that comes out of the Popovich system ends up coming to the Celtics. He's played a pretty big role coming off of the bench for the Celtics as of late. So, yeah, I mean, to me, the Celtics provide more of a worrying matchup. I think they're about as legit as you can be as a team right now.
I'd like to say they are, but actually, I would not like to say that because I absolutely hate the Celtics. But
I mean, to be fair, it's really two of us. Just that they came up against a team I hate more at the moment than them.
But the Bucks are kind of that scenario where we used to say with the Warriors, prove me wrong until I think otherwise.
Right.
And until someone beats the Greek Freak in a best of 7 game series in recent time, I'm just gonna say the Bucks are the best team. They're the team to beat right now.
No, I mean that's fair. That's a justifiable thing. I'm not going to sit here and bash you for it or any stretch like that. Okay.
I think he's hard to stop.
Right. Let's keep on that side of things before we go to the West then, right? Because I think barring in either series something catastrophic happening, I mean, I think it's pretty signed, sealed, delivered that Bucks and Heat are going to be advancing.
Yeah.
At that point, it really is a 3-horse race in the East.
The Raptors, though.
So this is what I'm going to kind of get at here is the Raptors don't frighten me, at least as a Heat fan. I don't think they should frighten the other two teams, to be completely honest with you, either. It's interesting because with all the Nets saga, the 76ers saga is kind of getting swept under the rug. Yeah, I don't know how you feel, but neither the Sixers or the Raptors exactly frighten me.
James Harden's a playoff loser.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. I think this is predominantly a 3-horse race in the East. And it's been, to be fair, it will be the 3 best teams in the East all year, more or less. The unfortunate part, right, is you're going to have the Bucks and the Celtics more than likely facing off against each other in order to get to the ECF for it.
Yeah, if the Bulls made the second round, I'd be absolutely stunned.
If you were to say a month ago that they would, I wouldn't be surprised. They ended up getting hurt down the stretch, and they just did not play good down the stretch.
No. And DeMar DeRozan, I think, is just kind of like who we all thought he was. I think he took another step this year to think that he could be like a almost right on the cusp of a superstar.
Right.
Because the way he played in that fourth quarter. But, I don't know. The team has just gone downhill
Right.
since the second half here.
I think, like I said, part of it has to do with health. And they just didn't play well as a unit down the stretch. It's weird because I was one of the guys who used to just mock Caruso, but he was a big part of that team. Got hurt.
Lakers could use him.
Yeah, exactly. Same with Lonzo. He got hurt obviously midway through the year. I'm not going to sit here and stand for the DeRozan flack exactly, but that's, I think, a more different topic for a different day overall.
And I like DeRozan.
But he's pretty much doing most of that offensive work for that team right now, and it's tough to do that in the playoffs at that point.
They weren't expected to be this good this year.
No.
Billy Donovan, though, great coach.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that he was not in the final three for Coach of the Year.
Who were?
The guy for Memphis, Taylor,
Jenkins,
Monty Williams, and Spoelstra.
You think he's got a chance?
No, well,
Spoelstra to the fans, I'm saying?
He'll probably be the 3 of 3. What's weird is he's the only coach. When the NBA did, remember how the NBA did the 75 players? They also did 15 coaches at the same time. Mm-hmm. Spoelstra was one of the 15 coaches. At the moment, I think he's the only coach within the 15 that never had a coach that has never won a Coach of the Year yet. So,
surprised he didn't when they
this year is tough because last year it probably should have been Monty Williams. I didn't have a problem with Thibodeau winning it, but probably should have been Monty Williams. This year it should probably be either Monty again or Jenkins. To be honest, I don't think any of us really expected Memphis to be as good as they were this year.
That's the problem with that Coach of the Year. Yeah. It's always to the team because there's always that one team that surprises people, and it always goes to that coach. Right. And I'm surprised Spoelstra didn't get one after the LeBron era there.
Yeah, he didn't get the year that they won the 21 in a row or whatever it was to finish 500 and make the playoffs. So
yeah.
All right, let's chat about the West side of things for a few minutes here. So we'll jump, I guess. We're going to do the loose cover of the Warriors Nuggets. I'm a little bit surprised the Nuggets aren't being competitive in that series, but I think that's proof of how much they need a guy like Murray and Porter all the time, and they just can't space well. I mean that. As much as I love Jokic, there's a bit of an exposure of him going on right now. The fact that he's clearly still slower than dirt. And the Warriors are, they're giving you the vibe that they have that FU streak in you a bit right now. Kind of like you thought we were dead back in 2018, but we're still here type stuff. That series has been actually one of the more boring ones, oddly enough. You figure a series where you have really name-brand guys like Steph and Clay and obviously Jokic on the other side, that'd be fun. But it hasn't been a fun series overall. It just hasn't.
Denver got a game.
Right. The two series in particular I really want to talk about are the Mavs Jazz and then the Pelicans Suns because we wrote off the Pels for probably really justifiable reasons. Let's be honest, and we wrote off the Mavs because we thought they'd be without Luka. Luka comes back. It's been a huge difference.
You telling me a Memphis Minnesota team series does not intrigue you?
Well, it's intriguing for different reasons. but we kind of write off the Mavs. They surprise one game because Jalen Brunson just plays out of his mind, does really well. Not knock on Brunson, but whatever. But Luka comes back, making a difference, right? That series is tied. Same thing with the Pels Suns. We kind of write up the Pels. Suns lose Booker. Pelicans have been playing pretty good basketball anyway here. And now that series is tied. The West, to me, has actually probably been the more fun series to watch so far in the NBA playoffs. I don't know how you exactly feel about that, but yeah, and then you're right. I mean, we probably should really discuss this Timberwolves Grizzlies series as well because you have obviously, I'm calling more or less the Pat Beverly led Timberwolves at this point. Cat's kind of gone to the back burner as he kind of usually does to a degree. Versus Ja Morant, who's still high flying or whatever. But that's been a fun series for like when you brought up, I said different reasons altogether.
Yeah, I mean, well, these are the better series. I mean, there's 3 2-2s right now.
Yeah.
And obviously these aren't your brand team names. I think is kind of why the Eastern Conference has gotten more hype. It's just when you think of the NBA, you don't think of the Grizzlies, Pelicans, Jazz in this day and age. You don't think of them. They're boring teams. They're very boring. And but the series are good. So it's 2-2, but it's just like I know you're excited for this Mavericks Jazz series, but I mean maybe the Pelicans are trying to change my mind, but I just don't see these two teams getting to the Western Conference Finals. They're playing a series for 4th place. But shocking what is going on in that New Orleans Phoenix series. Because Devin Booker's out, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is a Suns team that only lost 18 times all year long, and they've lost twice to the Pelicans in the last week. So, is a huge Game 5. Is tonight? I'm not sure. It might be tonight.
Let me double check quick. I believe it is.
If it's coming up, people. It's coming. Whenever it is, it's a huge. Probably
Game 5 tonight at 10 p.m.
It's arguably the biggest game in Pelicans franchise history. Because I don't know any. Where the Pelicans? They were the original Charlotte team, right?
Correct.
Where'd this Charlotte team come from? The one
Expansion.
Really?
Well, it was more or less like how the NFL wasn't a fan of how the Browns got moved to Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And so when they moved out of Charlotte, it was not a well-received.
Has there been 3 franchises that been the Cleveland Browns?
No.
I feel like there has.
Just 2. 2 to my knowledge, anyway.
Maybe
if anybody knows anything different, please tell.
Maybe it's Baltimore.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Baltimore would be 2-2 as well, but either way.
Anyway, I don't think the Pelicans are going to win this game tonight, but, it would be something because it's in Phoenix to go home with a 3-2 series lead. It is the biggest game in Pelicans franchise history. But I still think the Suns are going to win. The Jazz have been kind of disappointing, especially,
Look, you know me, Nick. I'm a big defensive guy. Defense is one of my personal favorite things in the world, and rebounding. I love a guy like Gobert. You can attest to this.
He's the best player on the team.
But it is the Jazz we're talking about here. I mean,
Quinn Snyder on the hot seat?
Probably, yeah. That team's probably going to look a little bit different come the offseason. But, yeah. You're right. I mean, it's the Jazz we are talking about here. Perpetual chokers. It's Utah. Oh, man. Just go look at Vernon Maxwell's Twitter thread. Love Vernon. Love me some Mad Max.
Who the heck would play in Utah?
Yeah.
I hear the bars close at midnight there, so that's
Mormons.
That's not my type of town.
All right. Let's move on to our I guess other/final topic of the day. So Nick, you brought this up a couple weeks ago, and since then we've had a couple other situations where we have these strategies by MLB managers where we're calling it overthinking, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. Look, this started on the basis of when Maddon intentionally walked with the bases loaded while trailing nonetheless. People are classifying it as a success because they ended up winning the game in the long run, but I just don't get it. Then last week, the Yankees are playing in Detroit. First base is open. Boone walks Miguel Cabrera intentionally. Mm-hmm. Detroit hits a single, 2 runs score. It's about in the 8th, or 1 run scores rather, whatever it is. First base is open again, but he doesn't walk the guy then. Which to me, it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to do it for one guy, you need to do it for the other guy in that situation. So we have a bunch of this overthinking stuff going on here at this point. I know a lot of people are claiming it as analytics, and I think to a degree there is. I'm an analytics guy to a point. I think the right combo is somewhere in the middle, but I do believe in the numbers. I know.
Don't forget about Dave Roberts.
Right. The Roberts one, I'll let you fill in because you were the one who picked it up before I did even. But Roberts probably gets a little bit more of leeway because of, I don't know if it's recency bias or whatever, but or maybe just cumulative success compared to the other two managers combined, I'd say either way. But yeah, fill everybody on the Dodgers one because you were the one who picked up on it.
Yeah, so it was right before. It was like the day before the Seager one, the Joe Maddon Seager one. It was like, so Clayton Kershaw, first start coming off the injury. Tommy John, I think, one of those type of injuries. He had a big injury where he was out for a while, and he coming off the injury. So they start him like the 5th game of the year this year, and he had a perfect game through 7 innings, Paul, on 80 pitches.
Yeah.
And he had 13 strikeouts. I think that's the most impressive part. He had 13 strikeouts on 80 pitches in 7 innings. And Dave Roberts, the manager of the Dodgers, takes him out of the game with a perfect game. Paul, there's only been, I believe, 23 ever perfect games in the history of this game.
Yep.
That's been going on since the early 1900s. Some people say even into the 1800s. Before the World Series era, but there's only been 23 times out of all those games. Each team plays 162 games a year, and there's only been 23 occasions where a guy's thrown a perfect game. And Clayton Kershaw, who's done everything in the game, won a Cy Young, I'm pretty sure. I got to assume so.
He does, yeah.
He's won a World Series. He's thrown no-hitter. But he doesn't have a perfect game. That's like,
Right.
that's one of the greatest accomplishments you can do as a pitcher. He takes him out of the game. If I was Clayton Kershaw, I would say, you got to take this damn ball away from me because I am not coming out of this game. There's 2 innings left. And as a manager, you got to accept that. I don't care what kind of injury he had. Long term, whatever. This is until he gives up a base runner. We're talking a base runner. He walks a guy. It's all right to take him out with a no-hitter. He hits a guy. 1 pitch, hits him. Take him out. It's all right with the no-hitter. We see it all the time. People get taken out with no-hitters. But perfect game, you got to leave him in there until it's over. We're talking 6 more batters at the most. You have to keep him in the game. And Clayton Kershaw, he says he was all right with the decision after. He wasn't. He was that close from history. It would have been the first perfect game since the crazy 2012 season when there was 3 in 1 year. And you keep him in that game. I've never been a manager in anything. But if I was a manager, personally, I would never take anyone out with a no-hitter. I just couldn't do it. I don't care what the scenario is. I don't care what his injury was. Your reason you're out there right now is because you're healthy. The doctors have given you the okay to play at least today. Go out there. I know these arms are worth a lot of money, but this is history we're talking about. Even no-hitter to get into the Hall of Fame. You keep him in there. Perfect game we're talking. Perfect game, Paul. What are your thoughts when you heard that he was taken out?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I got told I knew he was, I didn't know it was a perfect game at the time. To my knowledge at the time, it was just a no-hitter. To a degree, like you said, I kind of understood it to a degree. You mentioned he was through 7 at 80 pitches, so your math tells you in your head, in theory, he's going to eclipse 100 by the time a complete game would be done. Minnesota, opening week, cold. I could understand it with the no-hitter. We've seen, I think, what I'll call dumber decisions in terms of that happen before that one. The fact, as you mentioned, a perfect game in the course of the MLB where there's been I forget the exact number of thousands of games, but thousands upon thousands upon thousands of games, and less than 1% of them have been a perfect game. How do you pull him? Like, I'm with you. Maybe to me, the only way I give Roberts a pass, and it's come out already, obviously, that this wasn't the case, but the only way I think I would have given Roberts a pass was if Kershaw told him, "Hey, I'm done." Like, if that was the case where the player's the one saying, "Hey, I need to tap out," I would have understood, I guess, in that sense, right?
Now it comes to
But not to interrupt, but the fact of the matter is, history's on the line. Kershaw wanted to be back out there by all accounts, and you pull him only for the first pitch anyway from the guy who comes out of the bullpen to be was it a double, I think, right?
yeah.
So, God.
I want to go to your crazy theory. Not
Yeah.
crazy theory, but your theory that you used to have. You got to put it back, the camera back on you. I got to ask you.
Well, I'll leave it on you for the second.
You're a big believer that Brian Cashman is making the shots with the Yankees.
Right,
Like,
right.
do you think the GM pulled him from that game?
No, not for the Dodgers, no. Freets, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. If I'd seen kind of lets Roberts do his thing. I think the dynamic in LA is more, I guess, although linear in nature, it's much more democratic in terms of actual decisions on field. I think Roberts has a pretty good grasp that he's allowed to kind of do what he wants, as opposed to the situation with the Yankees. So, yeah, I'm guessing Roberts acted the way you're phrasing it, acted alone in this. Yes, I don't think he had. I don't think he went talking about or had a phone call from above to do it. That being said, I doubt anybody from the Dodgers front office actually really went to Minnesota anyway. Maybe if it was July, but not in April. I don't know. It's been, I guess, to move off of that to a degree. It's been an interesting start to the year. I think some of these decisions, not the ones as maybe egregious as the ones we were talking about, but there have been other instances of guys overthinking and stuff like that. Like there's just like some positional stuff, like for example with the Yankees, where you have like DJ LeMahieu playing third sometimes. I think one of the only knocks I can maybe say about the Mets to a degree is how they're kind of handling the Pete Alonso, Dom Smith, DH to playing in the field situation sometimes. Stuff like that. And where it gets more or less forgotten about. I don't know if it has to do with maybe spring training obviously being delayed and short because of the lockout or what, but this season so far, it just seems like we've had a lot of this overthinking and there's different types of plays and strategies that just don't make any sense to me. I don't know.
To go off your other 2 points, the Joe Maddon thing.
Mm-hmm.
As a Pirates fan, I've seen Joe Maddon manage plenty of games with the Cubs. The biggest problem with Joe Maddon is his ego. And he just thinks he invented the game of baseball. He thinks he's better than everybody. And he does these crazy things. And him walking Corey Seager with the bases loaded and trailing is not surprising to me because Joe Maddon, that's exactly what Joe Maddon would do. And don't get me wrong, Joe Maddon is a great manager. He took the Tampa Bay Rays at their first year after they weren't the Devil Rays to the World Series. Mm-hmm. He broke the Cubs' curse, won a World Series there. So he knows what he's doing. But there's just some situations where his ego gets the best of him and he just makes these stupid decisions and he thinks it's the right one and makes everyone question him. And he got lucky that night because that was idiotic to walk a guy with the bases loaded when you're trailing, and that was just stupid. The other one is the Yankees. So you said there was a situation where they didn't walk the guy, right? The Yankees won.
Yeah, the Cabrera one, and then they didn't with the next guy up in line after there was a hit. Yeah.
I mean, not to be a Yankees hater here, I think
Who are you kidding?
I think getaway day, later innings of getaway day, the Yankees were doing the best that they possibly can to not be on the highlight reels for the rest of eternity. They didn't want to be the team to give up the hit to Miguel Cabrera for his 3,000th hit because he got the next at-bat we saw eventually on Saturday after the rain out. That's just my opinion, Paul. I personally think the Yankees just didn't want to be on the highlight reels for the rest of eternity. They didn't want to be Miguel Cabrera's 3,000th hit video. That's exactly why they intentionally walked him. And sure, situation comes up where it's an intentional walk. I don't think there's a time. Miguel Cabrera is one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Right.
But in this point of his career, there is no situation where you should intentionally walk him. There's just none. There really is. He's not that dangerous.
I don't like, and maybe this is my personal style, but I hate, and I mean hate, intentional walking for the most part anyway.
You like they got rid of the 4 balls.
I just assume, no, I don't. Actually, I don't like it.
You don't?
No, because
Should be allowed to throw.
there's been, I mean, Miggy the one time it didn't get hit far out, pitched far out enough outside, and he hit it. There have been instances where the pitches go awry and the runner's able to advance. I was not a fan of it. I think it was man fraud playing to the pace of play nonsense. But
Yeah, that's exactly.
probably a different discussion.
That's exactly what it is. But, some crazy decisions by the managers, which goes back to your theory, not just in the Dave Roberts situation, but in GMs.
Mm-hmm.
Are they calling more shots than people think? What do you think?
I mean, I've been saying this for a while with some managers. Yeah, I mean, I think the Yankees are the more allowed example of it. Yeah.
Really?
I think it's Cashman and the conglomerate of people they have up top. Yeah.
Joey Gallo keep getting in lineup.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I hate you. Okay, well,
Making that decision.
you are. All right. That takes us to the end of the podcast for today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, whether live or after the fact. Make sure we watch on YouTube or catch up live listening on major podcast platforms. Nick, who are you shouting out today?
I'm shouting out my second cousin, Libby Barbe, star player for South Seneca Romulus softball team. Covered her game last Saturday.
Had a nice game.
Yeah, she pitched a complete game performance. She threw all 7 innings, had 8 strikeouts and 4 earned runs, 6 runs allowed. And she also went 2 for 3 at the plate with a RBI double and a 3-run inside the park home run because there's no fence in South Seneca. She's only a 7th grader for Romulus. Shout out Libby. Just giving you a quick note on the game, Paul. Saw the most famous inside the park walk. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen inside the park walk?
Inside the park walk.
It was a walk. There was a runner on base. Runner was throwing the third. Ball went around an infield a couple times, and all of a sudden the girl that walked all the way came around to score. It was a good game.
I'm very confused as how that would have happened.
So there's a girl on first.
Okay.
The walk happens.
Sure.
Girl stealing on the walk pitch.
Oh.
They throw it to second.
Gotcha. Over.
All right, maybe she was on second. She was on second. They throw it to third. Ball goes into left field. She scored. Girl walks going to second. They throw in the second.
Gotcha.
She gets around the third. The right fielder gets it. Decides not to throw, and the girl who walked, came all the way around to score for the most famous inside the park walk.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyway, shout out Libby. Great game. Got a 6-year career ahead of her. And shout out.
All right. As always, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff, and we will be back next Tuesday.